Alright, so Season 2 of Big Little Lies has officially ended. Kind of. So, let's go into all of that. Since we were finally able to get to it after that Emmy commercial that would never fucking end. And then eventually it started with, I was kind of wondering, well actually I guess the first thing I should point out is that I suppose there was one thing I was kind of anticipating and questioning that I probably apparently didn't even need to, and that is the fact towards the end of the video on the last episode it became clear that I apparently misheard exactly what had been said, or my brain just sort of moved some words around or something. The first thing I noticed was when they talked about, just as it ended, like in the very last moments, when Celeste said that she wanted to interview the witness herself, the witness being Mary Louise. For some reason, apparently my brain heard that Celeste had had another witness that she was going to bring to the stand. So I was thinking about that for no reason, apparently. Which makes a lot more sense also, but at the same time, it's not exactly like the show's trying to be legally accurate anyway, so, you know, all the freedom with that. But, yes, so pretty immediately we get to Celeste's questioning of Mary Louise, which I really liked because... I liked its placement in the episode, because that is one of those things where, when you think about it and given the kind of how it's basically her having a public confrontation with Mary Louise, which is a really big deal, you'd almost think it would be pretty much the entire climax of the season, which may have possibly been a stronger climax than we actually got, even though it was nice to kind of have it broken down, so it wasn't like we didn't have to spend the whole episode anticipating it, but we kind of were able to spread it out and not get it all at once, too, so we could bask in it multiple times whenever it would happen, with a lot of nice stuff in between, like, one of the first scenes is the interaction between Mary Louise and Renata, where obviously she's already gotten way under Renata's skin once, when she went to her house and basically made comments about her bankruptcy that weren't so veiled, and then finally, Renata gets to spend pretty much the whole episode blowing up, which I think is pretty easily the whole season's highlight, is it not? Just any time the scene cuts and we see that Laura Dern is going to be in the following scene, there's always that anticipation that something amazing is going to happen, and she pretty much never lets that down. So it was nice that we got a lot of that to finish this off with, starting with this run-in with Mary Louise with the whole... I also like the fact that Mary Louise kind of still seemed a bit unfazed by it, regardless of how hard Renata goes in on pretty much anybody if she has to, which is a nice setup to how Mary Louise like slowly crumbles more and more as the episode goes. So this was kind of a nice way to start that off, not just to give us a great Renata scene to start off with also, where they both kind of get the last word. Because we love everything Renata does and says in this scene, but then the final punctuation of the scene is Mary Louise's line of "I'll just take her order because we're going to the same place." So you kind of almost don't want to give Mary Louise the credit, but with a line like that, it does totally work anyway. So yeah, so we do get these court scenes, which, in a way, it kind of seems like maybe a bit of an underwhelming finale, because it's the sort of kind of thing we've seen before, but there's still, because we have so much behind these characters, there is still something a bit explosive to it, especially with bombshells like I mentioned in, like, what was it, the second episode, or earlier in this season. It was the scene where the boys and Mary Louise are looking through the different videos, and I had that question. It was like, I just have a feeling there's something incriminating on there. And yeah, apparently there was a video they took themselves that shows Perry for who he really was, and when we kind of start to see I was actually getting to the point where it was like, and we do obviously somewhat kind of come to that point where it was like, the second we see everybody watching this video, which is a great moment for Celeste, by the way, given the whole... how, like, starting all the way at Season 1 to now, we've kind of seen her, like... Because, I guess, obviously, we learned in one of the last shots that, yeah, obviously the attachment to Perry's still going to be there. But as far as the abuse and their relationship goes, the way it always kind of stayed behind closed doors and the way she always kind of kept it inside herself and was tried to be as vague about it as possible, or just make sure nobody knew anything about it. And then you suddenly have this huge moment for her where she makes the whole thing public by showing this video. And it's really, like, it's just this kind of ultimate character arc, which is really great. Especially a nice payoff to how great Kidman's been juggling this kind of stuff the whole 2 seasons, really. But in that moment, though, it was still like, okay, but still, in her mind, how is Mary Louise going to deny this, despite staring it directly in the face? And we do get moments where she, like, goes to the house and tries to just basically let herself in the true fashion of her. And it's really kind of in this moment where we start to see, like, the desperation in her that we haven't seen before, that crumbling, where it was almost like, I was wondering where this was going to go, and this is where I feel like I guess you could say this season, or more specifically this episode, kind of shoots itself in the foot, where, you're really kind of setting up a huge blow up. Because like we were talking about before, the last season ended in a murder. So it's like, for there to be... It's going to be really easy to make this season underwhelming unless you can either match that or go beyond it or find some other way to reach that same sort of, like, emotional peak that you could get out of your audience without... But obviously, you risk also kind of going into the full-on campy, which honestly, it wouldn't. I would almost think it would fit the tone if, like, this went full-on, like Mary Louise shows up and it turns into, like, the last scenes of Fatal Attraction. Like, if that were to happen in this series, that would not even surprise me, quite honestly. And I think a lot of people are kind of somewhat... They go in that direction when they think about, you know, what is this going to lead to? And when Mary Louise shows up there and she's trying to talk to Celeste, who keeps basically pushing her out of the house, almost physically, it's almost like this sort of... It looks like it could potentially be a dangerous desperation. But it's... Yeah, it just kind of goes in the direction it's been headed. Because I kept saying, you know, there's going to be fireworks. Somehow there's going to be fireworks. And to an extent, there is. When I was talking about, like, Celeste having this gigantic arc where she puts everything out there for everybody to see. Like I said, watching Mary Louise crumble, there is Renata destroying all of Gordon's shit after that line he threw at her. So there's plenty of that here, but at the same time, it still feels like... It's leaving that question open about, are they going to do 3 or not? And to my understanding, I think it was Witherspoon that said that's really just a scheduling thing. Like, it really just depends on that. I still never figured out if this one was always fully planned or not, because we know that the first season was supposed to just be a mini-series, and then it's like, oh, well, why not? We'll do a second one. But it's like there's still stuff that ties in well enough with that one where I still wonder how much this one was planned already. So I don't know if they have anything lined up for a 3 should those schedules line up and should they all decide to do it, but that would kind of suck for them if it doesn't, because obviously if you do another one, you always run the risk of, like, you know, going too far and the show just completely goes off the rails. But some may argue it's getting to that point, but also the thing is this whole season kind of feels like it's like a filler almost. Like, it's like everything is leading to something, but we all kind of thought it was this finale. But but there's just kind of something missing from this, where we didn't quite hit some giant thing that said, like, yes, this is, like, you know, the ultimate finale of something. Because you kind of got the vibe that, like I said, I'm always so pessimistic. I always think something's gonna go wrong, especially the happier it looks. Like I said, we kind of got that in the first season also, where it was like, you know, Celeste and Jane were free of Perry and everything seemed fine, everything wrapped itself up, but then at the very last second we got the shot of the detective watching them. So it's like, what was that going to be for this one? Because it was getting way too happy, because of course, even though Bonnie's mom did end up dying, there was still, like, the sort of wholesome, cathartic thing going on of, oh, she's going to smother her and Martin Donovan's going to walk in on her, and it's, oh no, she actually just made amends with everything, and now she's sleeping next to her, and obviously it was like the whole make amends and then she dies thing, but still, the amends were there, and that was the important thing. Even though when she was driving to the main, Bonnie still seems in a totally off place. But still, we've got Jane and Corey, like, really taking off, and it's like she's finally found, like, at least the comfort enough to get to the intimacy stage, and she's, like, really making this huge progress and everything. Celeste has the children now. Ed and Madeline do the renewing the vows thing. So, the only people that really have anything to lose, or have nothing to lose now, is Bonnie and Renata. So then we get this last shot of them finally going to the stage. It's one of those things where it was like, is Bonnie going to pay off anything she's been setting up the whole season? Like, is Zoe Kravitz going to finally get her really, really big moment? And we did clear up the whole she's not going to kill her mom thing, but she's going to go in the opposite direction. Which is nice, but then there's the whole thing of... because what's going to happen here is they have been fucking with a murder investigation. They have been telling so many lies and setting up so much bullshit in regards to, I repeat, a murder investigation. So if they're all walking in there to say, oh, by the way, this is what actually happened and we were all totally lying about the death that took place, I'm pretty sure they're all going to prison. So, where does that put the kids that Celeste just fought so incredibly hard for? What is that going to do to Ed and Madeline's marriage now? And it's like, and how much does Ed know about this? I'm assuming nothing. After they just did the whole, hey, you know, no more, you know, lies thing. We're starting off. This is the new beginning. And, you know, Madeline's kind of keeping it in her head. It's like, yeah, it's my new beginning behind bars, because that's what our plan is. And then the whole Jane and Corey thing. I didn't do the research, and I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know exactly how much time you do, but I can't imagine it's light for tampering with a murder investigation and lying to the police involved in it. So, yeah. I mean, you could theorize maybe that's not what they're doing going to the police station, but what the fuck else is it? I don't know. So, I'm not sure exactly. And another thing, when I kept talking about it possibly ending in fireworks, is we were all anticipating the same thing, right? I'm pretty surely we were all assuming that the big grand finale of this was going to be Mary Louise finding out that he was intentionally pushed, right? So I don't, but that doesn't happen. Obviously she was suspicious the whole time, but we never got to the whole, yeah, and the fact that, you know, she's been face to face with Bonnie before. But it's like, so is that what you could do with a third season? Is have Mary Louise come back once everything is revealed? But then we're basically back to square one. Where basically you take Gordon out of the picture, you take Nathan out of the picture now, apparently. Another thing that shows that Bonnie no longer has anything to lose. And it's like, yeah, we'd basically be back to square one, so I don't know. Back in the sentence of really the square one of both season 1 and season 2. So I'm not quite sure what exactly the plan is here, but because I would think you wouldn't end it like that if you weren't planning on going on. But at the same time, it's also one of those endings that seems to say, like, it's up to your interpretation how it turned out. But still, I don't see this being... Yes, it's cathartic for them, and yes, they're doing the right thing, and yes, they're getting it off their shoulders. But yeah, there's going to obviously be intense consequences to this that seem to negate everything that they tied up. So, I don't know. So, I mean, I'm still overall... It's kind of like, I guess this is going to be the trend of TV seasons that I review one episode at a time, is a lot of people didn't like Fargo Season 3, which was what I was doing the last time I did this. And it was like, I overall, because this is something I don't normally do, is go from episode to episode. I usually just wait till shows are over and then watch them all in their entirety. I'm literally getting ready to go to the last season of Justified just now, which was just like 4 years late. So it is kind of an exciting thing for me, because it's abnormal for me to go from episode to episode and have that period in between where you can kind of think about what's going to happen next instead of just going straight to the next one. So yeah, so I do get a thrill out of that. So maybe that kind of clouds, like, if maybe this season is underwhelming or something like that. I don't necessarily see that right away. It's got to be more of a perspective thing. But yeah, I still was really into this season. I'm just not quite sure this is the right payoff, because they had so many great setups and the performances are incredible. That's like definitely something you can never take away from this. So yeah, so I mean, I guess we'll see what they do. It is really weird that it's like, we're not even dealing with this apparently from a story perspective. It's like, once the schedules get lined up, then we'll start working on season 3. Like, I don't know if Kelly's like already writing something in case, or if he already had something in mind prior to this, or what. But yeah, so that's when there's that big a mystery around the writing process. Because apparently there was also the whole thing I was just reading that I think came out like last week or something, about Andrea Arnold basically being pushed out of the director's chair, and they basically brought Jean-Marc Vallée back in, and they just kind of handled it, and she just kind of ended up with the... it was kind of vague exactly what I looked at, so I can't say anything concrete, but yeah, I did see, like, right at the very end of the credits, Jean-Marc Vallée got a special thanks, so I don't know if it was a creative thing that went off, and if this was... I don't know, but yeah, so overall, like, as a whole... I do like the season. I don't want, like, the underwhelmingness of this finale to put a damper on the entire rest of the season, because the entire rest of the season is really well done and really well put together. But it's just a matter of if your perspective on that changes once you realize that this was the ending this was all coming to. So it's like, were they jerking us around all that time just to give us this, or what? But like I was saying, they'd be shooting themselves in the foot if they don't do a season 3, because it's like, then this one hardly serves a purpose. So we'll have to see. They'll have to make another season to make this one relevant after this finale. So I guess we'll see if they do that. But we probably won't know that for another year or two anyway. So we'll see what happens. But this was, fun regardless. And it's always worth it to watch these actresses do what they do. So, yeah, I guess that's the end of this. So, we're going to be getting back into the groove. I'll be going back to doing 2 videos a week, thankfully. So the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood review is coming, and the True Romance Natural Born Killers versus, and then whatever the hell August is going to be. I know the Hobbs and Shaw is the first movie of August, and then we'll see what we're doing from there. So, and then award season will be coming. And when it comes to like the Globes and the SAGs and all that, probably be talking about this again to one extent or another. So yeah, so until then, I guess we're done here.